Today we'll talk about stage 2, its natural development, the sensors involved, clustering, important breaks, analytical overlay, and whatever else comes to mind. Last time we talked about the stage 1 and the gestalt. We finished with that, and now the next step is coming. So what are your thoughts and feelings about the stage 2? How it feels for you, David?
Stage 2 typically for me, especially after getting familiar with things, stage 2s come fast and hard. Immediately after my ideogram, I'm getting I feel like stage 2s are kind of backing up right behind it. Typically, if things are going good, that's how it feels for me. Typically, when I start stage 2s,
I get it. So
I grab I for whatever reason I tend to pick up on dimensions relatively early on, just kind of probably not as common a thing as most viewers, because you kind of build up to the dimensions. What typically comes to your mind when you start your stage 2s?
So, I mean, the first thing what I'm thinking about all the time is what would my sensory experience be if I were physical at that target directly? I have here 2 sessions, one from you, one from me, and I think we can go over that as an example. Starting the screen share. And first of all, I'm trying to hold it so easy as possible, everything. After I have my gestalt here, S2, I've got here this, the Wasville crash session as an example. And it's for me like a little bit like really like a child when it is starting to born, like cows at birth, something like that. You're coming out and it's like, boy, I've got tactiles here. I can touch something. I smell something. I've got tastes, I can see dimensionals, I've got visuals, colors, I see qualities of lights, stuff like that. It reminds me a little bit of that. Everything is new. It's like to walk in the unknown, to walk in the dark.
Right here, Theo, you start out, it looks like you start out, and this may vary on the target for you. It may change, but it looks like you start out with qualities of light, color, and then you get into like textures and stuff. Is that a natural evolution for you, or does it vary from target to target?
Can you repeat, please, the question? The audio quality is like
do you I noticed that in this session you start out with qualities of light, color, then you get into some dimensions. Do you typically start out with qualities of light, or does it just depend on what the target might be?
Normally, it's really the process like it starts with colors, it goes over qualities of lights, and I've got tactiles, I've got sounds, taste and smells. Normally all these sensors in remote viewing are really equal to each other. With some I'm struggling sometimes, most of the time that smell, I've got to ask myself, how the target is smelling, how's the taste of the target. But the information comes in equal parts of bits. In our normal life, we have got 70 or 80% or even more, I don't know it exactly, where our brain is busy to work with all information about the visual sense, But if we've got a remote viewing perception, everything is equal. But it starts everything with colors and qualities of lights most of the time. I mean, it makes a logical sense. If you're taking, as an example, if you're thinking about the aperture, you've got an aperture, you come into stage 1, you're evoking the signal over the signal line, and you take your hand, you make it like this, and you go to your eye and you look to somewhere, you try to have the hole so the aperture so narrow as possible. then I can see only a color. I see only, as an example, white. It's whitish. And I see it's a little bit dark. It's a little bit shiny, and I'm starting to open here the aperture with my hand. Then I see, okay, it's brown also. Then more and more comes in. And so more I'm opening it, this is one of the reasons why the dimensionals come at least. So I see, okay, there are dimensionals. I can see it goes upwards, it's horizontal, and stuff like that, And it's a normal process, I guess, that you get normally the
Yeah. Well, I mean,
colors
I actually get
uh,
my dimensionals. I actually
in
get
the beginning. But I know that
Yeah, I get mine kind of early.
yeah,
Yeah. But
in the
Dames,
beginning.
talk a little bit about how Dames would kind of have you guys in TRV. With TRV, I mean, you guys kind of evoke up the process. You want to talk a little bit about that? I mean, just because it's CRV, it's more, it's kind of an open channel. Whatever comes in comes in. But talk a little bit about that difference, just because we're here talking about it, about the difference between TRV and how you kind of evoke that progression of and kind of put them in a category, like you go colors and blah blah blah.
Yeah, I think it's my pre-assumption about that, and I think I'm right with that. It's normally when you start with removing and you're on stage 2, you've got your pen, yeah? I've got my pen here. I'm thinking about, and if nothing is coming and you don't have a monitor, as an example, you're feeling sometimes lost. If you've got a good monitor, the monitor will say colors, any sounds, any tactiles. He will help you to grab the signal line, the signals of the signal line. If you don't have it, you've got to ask yourself sometimes. And in theory, it's the process is to help the viewer to learn it faster and better. Because it's easier if you're asking yourself, okay, what are the colors? You're writing colors, and you become the information about the colors. Then you're asking about the tactiles or textures, whatever you want to call it in theory, and you become all the textures about. So it's more an interrogation of that. So it makes theory easier to learn to handle the stage 2. In theory, we have this natural unfolding, like a
Yeah,
petal.
like a flower, like a flower blooming.
Going into, but it needs more time to learn it, to handle it this way. We are trying really to avoid to take us under pressure or to interrogating that data.
To force it
God,
open.
give me
Yeah.
a color, give me this. But these are two different ways to work with it, and both is working
sure.
well.
Okay.
So let us see, how we talked about your dimensions comes most of the time in the beginning. And let's see here. Could argue wide structured gold.
Yeah, and see,
Here is the first one of you, but I recognized also that really early
and I
you have
think
your
now this is
dimensional.
honestly why. I mean, just is my
I'm hearing
opinion.
you.
Now, I think now this may be a personal thing too. This may have something to do with it. Now, I've worked with my hands my whole life. I've been in construction. I'm just a very tactile person. And I just, if I had to guess, that would be why I think that I go for tactiles so fast. Just because of like maybe the individual, the viewer, but as far as a general natural progression, I believe that you're probably right on that. I probably, in most cases, I would say would probably kind of evolve in that way, where you would go, kind of to some colors, to maybe some textures, to temperatures, but again, that's the difference between like the stage 2 CRV and like maybe TRV in comparison, is you have stage 2 is kind of an open channel. It's kind of like, here you go, let them come in naturally, as to where TRV, you're kind of evoking, like, just give me the, right in line, do. Again, it both seem to be effective.
Exactly.
Just kind of a different. Yeah.
It is like that. If you Vorteil, what is this in English now? Advantage, I guess. Yeah, the advantage is you're starting to get the data in a kind of cluster. If you're seeing you've got your dark, blue, shiny, hard, white, reflective, deep, dry, brown, ochre, granulary, black, yellowish, metallic, and then somehow a visual is popping up. Putting this on the left side, give them the place for the visuals. Continue with the written form. Hard, smooth, silver, gray, and then an analytical overlay breaks in. We have got this big cluster here, and it leads to an analytical overlay ship as an example.
Which kind of probably,
I
yeah,
think this
yeah.
is important, and this is
And
what makes it
this is
different.
actually kind of a correct AOL too, which I think is, this is interesting because, and I'm sure you've noticed this too, especially as you go on. You will often, you'll get these AOLs that are like AOL
If
signals, or are directly the target right off the bat. But the problem is you got maybe four of them. One of them might be the exact target, but you can't you don't invest in any of those AOLs. You just drop them all.
Yeah, the aperture is not wide enough that we can say, okay, it is an AOL signal or not. So we are bringing that all
Exactly.
in a normal AOL BK.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another nice example about cluster formation. It's boxy, fresh, cold, icy, white, blue. Images building up in my mind, pops in my mind. Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
So analytical overlay break,
Mm-hmm.
Antarctica. I let my pen
Yeah.
down. Try to flush that AOL out.
I just want to
Take my pen again
I just
and
want to point out
continue.
too.
And so more experienced I was, so faster this process went. Today
Yeah, and Theo too. I just want to point out that
I'm writing and let the pen down, take it
you
on
could
and
also
continue.
see that you.
Hmm?
This is also kind of a common thing after you, especially after you have remote viewed for for some time. He's already, you can see in Theo's session, he's already wanting to sketch. Like you see on the left, he's already feeling compelled to start sketching. So you could already see he's kind of getting into the signal there. It's just interesting to see because you know how it is. Like, it's the
Yeah.
process. You could see the process unfolding on the paper.
Here it comes again to a small cluster building, deep, high, humming
Mm-hmm.
sound. And I had a feeling analytical overlay break there are like vibrations on site, slim, echoey, dark, deep. And we can break that down and everybody can see it that we're using only one word descriptors. And you can break that all down into the different senses. Something's echoey, that's a sound, it's dark, it's quality of light, it's deep, you've got a dimensional, hollow and dimensional, it's quiet sound again, metallic taste, granulary. I've got one question for you. You're using kind of heuristic tools in your stage two. You're using something, same like if you want to taste something, you take something from the target and you simulate it, the same like if you would be there, or you touching or something.
Yeah,
How you
I
handle that?
mean, I try, and because sometimes like you get so the whole time in the process you're straddling the 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 kind of the thinking mind and the feeling mind, and so sometimes like I'll even forget to kind of do tastes or something and I move it in my, because again you're writing that signal. But again, for textures or tactiles, I'll stick my hands out. I've been taught to
Yes.
hand model. What's the what am I what were we taught? Air modeling, not hand modeling.
I would call it big hand,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like a big
And
hand.
almost like you're like the target's in front of you.
Air modeling we're doing in
Yeah,
stage
yeah.
three then
But
later.
I always stick my tongue out like I'm tasting. Sometimes if I want to get if it just doesn't kind of fall out and I want to get a sense of like what the like if there's ground at the target, like what that ground, like if it's like dirt or like concretey, I'll literally take my hand and kind of take a scoop out of it. And if I feel like I'm hitting dirt or
Yeah.
then that's what I'm. If I feel like I'm hitting concrete, I'll get a sense of that. But as time goes on, even within the CRV structure, you kind of develop your own little way of kind of working it. It's still very much in the form of CRV, but you take up your own personality as a remote viewer um, to kind of peel them off.
Yeah. It is an individual process
Yeah, but I
later.
noticed too, though, you're
So what I'm doing sometimes really, I take my hand and touching the
yeah, yeah.
ground,
And I noticed too,
stuff
though. I
like
think
that.
it's worth mentioning too is, and I think you're similar.
How you're handling aesthetic impacts when something coming up and like, wow, you're feeling something. For me, it's really it depend on the target itself. Sometimes it's really subliminal, or I'm not really interested in that target. I don't have any. And if it's a strange target or where what makes me emotional in any way, it pops up really early in my sessions. How is it with you?
Yeah, well, it's funny because you get more familiar with again the process. So like the last target you gave me, or a couple targets ago, you gave me a statue, and it was extremely boring. A
A
statue.
what?
Remember you gave me that statue and like that rocky statue you gave me, and my
Ah,
AI
okay, okay.
was my
Yeah, yeah,
AI was. I feel like I'm
yeah.
forced to do this. Like you're forced to do this because I hated the target. So because again, I feel like I'm kind of a deep dive remote viewer. Okay, so when you give me
You don't like
I,
training
well, it,
targets?
yeah, yeah. I
That's
mean,
it, bro.
to me, it's a paper target. So there's no depth there. So it's funny. Um, yeah, nowadays, early on, basically, I could just tell. I'll get boring as an AI or whatever, but I can just tell if I'm not enjoying the target. There's not much there. I'm not enjoying the process because I can't do a lot of digging. That's kind of how it feels to me. So yeah, if it's a target I really like or whatever, you'll get a really interesting AI. Like I feel a whimsical. If it's boring, I get boring. Um, but you'll get an expression of that target, how it makes you feel. And it could vary quite a bit depending on what it is. I've had targets, AIs
Yeah.
that were really, like, oh, this is, I don't like this at all. I don't like being here.
We should be normally it's a natural process, I guess. It should be not forced by ourselves. We can ask ourselves to the end of stage two. You can see most of the time I'm starting to more and more get visuals, or I become more and more dimensional, and after 2, 3, or 4 dimensionals near together or
Yeah,
afterwards
that's
following,
how we were taught.
then
That's how
aesthetic
we
impact
were
is
taught
automatically
was,
popping up in the mind. Normally, it should be completely natural.
yeah, we were taught
Yeah,
to build up. Yeah, yeah.
should be a
But
natural
since
way.
since
Like
since I
see
get
that here,
dimensionals
maybe.
kind of early, um, it's almost like I go around again because I want to make sure I get enough other dimensionals in order to build off of that stage to go to the next stage. Because to me, every stage is kind of like a building block. You're building a foundation. Then you've got the first level. So you need a solid every step of the way. You need something solid beneath you before you go up to the next stage.
Yeah, it is the natural way of opening the aperture. It is really like that. So I made some interesting experiments with a friend of mine too, a natural psychic, and I gave the task to gave a target number and said, do it on your way. How do you want to do? and came back with nearly 15 pages or something. And it was interesting data, but it was all
Mm.
chaotic, as much more visuals. And then the person took the same coordinates and did a COE structure and build it to that. So we have the same target number, COE, and the natural way. And you can see clear why it was structured like that. For the analysts later, when in operational
Mm.
work, you need that structure. If a natural psychic is coming and giving you the data, there's some interesting data inside, but you cannot really put it on the white things. How you cannot see how everything was unfolding and stuff like that. Super interesting experiment. Maybe we bring it one day online. Same like with colors, why we are not working with colors in theory, because you cannot really put the colors on the white areas in your sketches, as an example, in stage 3,
Mm.
but we will talk about stage 3 the next time. I want to talk with you a little bit about the Gatekeeper aesthetic impact. It's a dramatic opening of the aperture most of the time, or it should be at
Mhm.
least. You feel it every time like that, or you have got there different
No, yeah. I
experiments?
mean, yeah,
See,
yeah. And
Gatekeeper
again,
aesthetic impact.
it's formally that's how you discussed it. I mean, that's how we were trained, and that's how it typically should come in. Is where you get, you've built up all these small impressions, and then you get these last 3 or 4 dimensionals, and then boom, you go into you should have this expression of how you feel about the target. Yeah, it's kind of like a build up into your your sketching. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's just a natural development.
Yeah, I think it is a really, really important stage. And in the beginning, when I started with remote viewing and to write everything down, so stage 2, I've got to go so fast as possible through it. But it's the process is more slow than I thought in the beginning, and you really can enjoy it also. If you really have the feeling you're with your physical body on that side, you can grab out, try to feel, take your hand, make a big hand out, and try to enjoy that. To take all the sensory data and not like to gazing them and to bring it down. I personally really like this stage too.
Mm-hmm.
I like this process that the aperture is going more widening up, and it's greater and greater and greater, and try to enjoy that stage a little bit. And it is important. It's my opinion about it. It's important to landing at the target in stage 1 correctly, that you decode everything right, that you have the right gestalt, that you are trying to take your time in stage 2 to open the aperture, to build up everything slowly, and then to be ready for stage 3. Later, especially in operational work, these are not unimportant data sets what you're bringing up in
Mm-hmm.
stage 2. These it's all will be put it into a data system and looking for correlations, and it will be count everything. All data are
Mm-hmm.
equal important. So I know that you can say after stage 4.5, you've got high quality data, and sometimes it could be misunderstood. This doesn't mean that the data before is not
Mm-hmm.
important or something. It's only not so specific in kinds of that you can gather much more out
Yeah.
after stage 4.5. Like all the intangible coming in, you're more
Mm-hmm.
detailed. But the data itself, it's equal important from stage 1, 2, 3, and from stage 4.5 and
Yeah,
more.
and I think
Yeah.
that, I think that in remote
So
viewing in general, and this is going to reflect just about any remote viewer sessions, whether it be stage 1, stage 2, 3, 4, whatever. If you're a minimalist in life, like if you are the type of person where you're just going to do the bare minimum in anything, in an endeavor that you have, it's that kind of thing. Like you get what you get back out of it. So if you go into that session and you're wanting to get in and get out, you ain't going to get much. Even if you are on target, you're not really going to bring a lot back for the analyst. But if you're the type of person that will go in there and I'm going to dig in and I'm going to just keep shoveling and shoveling and shoveling, you put the effort in, you feel fatigued after that. Odds are it's going to go well, and you're going to bring back a ton of data for that analyst. But I've noticed like people that do a lot of, I don't mean to jump topics here, but like people that like just do ARV and stuff like that. They are very much, a lot of them, not all. I'm not trying to put everybody on a same thing, but a lot of them are kind of like just like dusting the process. They're just barely digging in. As to where other viewers, where they're going for data, bulk data, they're like deep dive type of remote viewers. Especially early on, there's such an impulse. You'll be in the session. It doesn't even matter what stage you're in. There'll be especially early on, you get this feeling like, I know what this is. And in the training, this was a big fight for me, is realizing that no, you don't. No, you don't. You see a collection of all this data, and you have put all this together into the closest thing, and you really, because the thing is you'll do this 100 times, and 1 out of the 100 times it'll be exactly what you thought it was. So in the back of your mind, you think, oh, I know what it is, but really the mindset you have to have is no, you don't. Put it down. And even if you did, who cares? Let's see what else is there. And it's hard. In the beginning, it's hard to do that. But once you get better at that, you just kind of make a pact with yourself, like, don't lean into this so hard. You don't, be happy with what you pull away from the target. Don't reach for more. Be happy with what you get, because it'll probably be a lot more than you are aware of when it's over. If you try to escape the target and you've got it all figured out, you got that's a bad target, guaranteed. But yeah, I mean, that's all I have to say about it. I mean, you could edit it, whatever.
I mean, I can say out of my own experience in stage 2, many times I'm really hitting the target or name the target. And the most important thing for myself is that I'm handling an analytical overlay. Like every time it's an analytical overlay, put it on my right side. Thank you, my left brain, that you're jumping and trying to help me. And I'm really trying to forget what I had, flush that out and continue with data gazing. And then in some cases, I'm looking back and saying, whoa, I hit it, I named the target or hit it already in stage 2. If I would, it's not a time in stage 2 to stick on an analytical overlay signal. That's one of the reasons why we have in stage 4 then AOL signals, where we can say, okay, we don't make a break there anymore. It's an AOL analytical overlay signal, and we are continuing because we want to dig into that data and want to gaze out more there.
That's the catch. That's the catch 22 of the whole thing, Theo. It's funny to me is you'll do a session, you'll review the session and realize, oh, I had an AOL stage 2 that named the target. But the reason why that target went so well at the end of the day was because you did not invest in that AOL that you declared. You know what I mean? Instead of, you did exactly what you're supposed to do, and you kind of came around full circle and then said, oh, it ended up being exactly what I called it. And that's how you have to handle that.
Okay, I hope everybody could take something for yourself, and if some questions pops up, let us know that, or write down in the comments, and we will see us next week.